All right. So we were discussing that how are we going to select contracts out of the ones that we found, right? So there were a couple of things that were discussed. This preference one was the thing that we used in order to select the suitable contracts that match our criteria. Okay. So if you remember, I told you that the preference one is basically for selecting a contract. Okay, whereas preference 2 and preference number 3 are for highlighting the contracts. Okay, so I did tell you that whenever you're doing this search in the document, I recommend you to start highlighting right on the spot. Wherever you find this stuff, scroll up and down and highlight it, so that even if if what if it turns out that you can do this contract, in that case you would not need to do the search again and highlight it. Okay, I hope you got my point. So today we are getting into highlighting the contract or highlighting the solicitation document based on the preference keywords. Okay, let's get into this document. So this is for a pest control service. Okay, I am unable to find the document that we were discussing before, so we're just gonna do this. So let's start with okay, so let's just search for site visit first. Okay, we're just gonna do control F. Just a sec. Okay, so it says that there are no site visit keywords in this. Okay, that might be possible. Uh, I'm just gonna do it one more time because I'm not sure what is this thing doing. So if you remember, I told you, so no results found. That means the site visit details were not given in this document. Okay. So if you remember, what did I say? That if the site visit is not given at all, like no details given, instead of that the site visit date is passed, what are we gonna do? We are going to email the government POC, the point of contact, and ask them like, hey, when is the site visit scheduled for, or can we schedule the site visit for this contract? And whatever they say, we can do that. Then we're gonna search for question so that we can see if there's a question and answer due date. It is taking its time. So nothing. That means question and answer due date is also not given. So if you remember, I told you that the bonds, they're usually most of the times for the construction contracts. And as I said, this is a pest control contract, so I'm not sure if we would find bond in it. But let's just do the search. So I'm not sure. I don't think the bond is gonna show up. Okay, so only place where it is written is this bond. All right. So that's not something we're interested in. We were looking for bid bond or performance bonds. Let's just do a quick search for bid so that, because I told you that bid bond is also called bid guarantee. Again, not something that we were looking for. Okay, we had another keyword, insurance. So first of all, we're doing The preference one, just for the recap. No insurance mentioned. But you already know, even if no insurance is asked for, we still ask the vendor, do you have insurance or not? Okay. Then we have subcontract. Why are we searching for this? So that we can see if there is anything important regarding subcontract. Even if it's percentage, if it's anything else, we could just find it. Okay. Subcontract, not important, not important. So what if I change it to subcontracting? Please note down all of these keywords that I am using right now so that you don't have to go back and forth watching the videos or trainings in order to understand it, okay? Subcontractor. So we found nothing when we did search for subcontracting. So I just changed ing with the word subcontractor. There it is. Subcontractor, subcontractor, so nothing important. Now let's search for percentage just to double check that we're not missing it. Okay, nothing. So that means we're good on that. Insurance done. These all done. Now we have third tier and limitation on subcontracting. So if you remember that when we were searching for subcontracting, the limitation on subcontracting should show up. What was limitation on subcontracting? That a company should be similarly situated so that a percentage does not apply to you. What is a similarly situated means? It means that it should be a small business like us, like KSNO. Okay? So we're looking for 30 or nothing for that. Then I'm just gonna search for limitation because we already did subcontracting and nothing showed up. So there's high probability that it's still not gonna show up. Nothing here as well. Okay, that's fine. Now we have to move forward. So we saw that there were none red flags for the preference one, so that contract is good to go. Now we have preference two. So these are all the things that are important to complete a contract, to understand a contract, and to highlight a contract. Okay. Preference one was for selecting a contract. Now, what is instruction to offers or quotation submittal or proposal? So basically this heading or this part, it lists all the information on how they need the proposal. Okay. They will tell you that you have to email it to this person by this date and this time. They will tell you what font are you gonna use, how many pages should your cover letter be, and what are the total amount of documents that you're gonna submit, what type of document do they need, all of that stuff. Okay, so this part is very, very, very important, and you need to make sure you go through it completely. Let's go and search for it. So we're just gonna search for instruction. See, it showed up instruction to authors. Now we're just gonna do the highlight. But I don't know. Whatever. Okay, so if I read this out for you, so you are able to understand. So basically it says that it is for a small business. Of course, it has to be for a small business. If it says anything apart from small business, we cannot do it. And it says the request for proposal closed on 6 November 2024 at 4 p.m. This is an old document that was a good example. So I have it. That's why we're going through it. So they're saying that it is viewed this mistake. Okay. So in this case, it is already passed, but in that case, it was fine. Please submit proposal in writing via email to this person. Reference RFP, this number. And then they're saying that the document that you submit should have everything in it. Shall submit a signed solicitation with all the pricing field, technical proposal, and price proposal. So what am I going to do? I will highlight all of it. So it is saying that this is a scanned PDF. That's why I'm not able to highlight it. So that is fine. We do have another software we use that's called Small PDF. No, we're not gonna convert it. We are at Innovate. Okay, so use this editor. It is good. I like it. It works well for me. We're gonna go to, sorry, I was gonna dictate you where the document is. So where's our document? This is our document. So I'll just open that. And we can always edit, even if the documents are non-editable, we can still edit them through this one. So I'll search for instructions. Come on. Not working. Okay, so we'll just, yeah, here it is. Let me make it bigger so you can see it. There you go. So now highlight. We're gonna use a highlighter. This is the one. So first of all, it is a small business. That's good. This is its due date. This is the email that you're gonna refer to. This is the notice ID. That should be on the subject line and everything. Okay. Now, this is the part where they tell you what things are you gonna, you know, sorry about that. I think I have to deselect it. We have, so these are all the parts or the parts of the submission that you have to submit: administrative, technical, and price. Administrative, they're gonna give you the details on what it has to include. Standard form signed. Then volume 2 is technical capability. That is, they're saying it should be clear, it should be concise, it should have all the details in it. And then, so you have to read all of it and then highlight it accordingly. Now we have subfactor 1. So basically, what are they doing here? They're telling you that in the technical capability part, what do they require? First thing they want is a QCP, that is quality control plan. Second thing they want is the pest control work plan. And if we scroll down, so pest work plan, they want it in 10 days of contract award. Okay, so that means this is required after getting awarded. This is not required with the proposal. So they're just informing us that this would be required afterward. Third factor is past performance. Okay, so what is past performance? Past performance is basically your past references for the work that you're doing right now. For example, if this is pest control, your past performance would be about any other pest control that you did in the area, anything commercial, anything residential, all of that, okay? So I will get into the detail of pest control, past performance and technical as soon as we are on that part. So I search for instructions. I found the instructions right here. So what did I do? I scrolled up and I scrolled down. Why? Because I know wherever this detail is added, there might be something important, maybe above it or after it, okay? That is why always do scroll up and scroll down. Then we have price, that is important as well, so you're gonna highlight that. Okay. Then let's go over and search for the next keyword. So we'll use it this way. Search here and then highlight there, okay? Instruction to offer is done. You saw how they told you what do you need to add to your proposal, and then what should be included, where to send it, all of that details, okay? Next is any certificate required. Now, we discussed insurance yesterday, right? And I informed you that certificate of insurance can be required for any of the contracts. So if it is required, it is most of the times mentioned under instruction to offers. Just like you saw, whatever they need with your proposal, they mention it there. So if any certificate is required, that would be mentioned under the instruction to offers heading, okay? But we did not saw anything like that. Still, we're gonna search for certificate so that we don't miss anything, okay? So if we do the search, oh, come on. If we do the search certificate, so I'm not going to put E. Why? Because this way I can search for two things, certificate and certifications. I hope you got the point. So again, I want you to write down all of the keywords that I'm searching for because I've practiced it like thousands of times. That's why I know what is easier. Okay. You can always later after the training, you can try and make up your keywords in order to understand that what is required, what's not. Okay. So now we have the certification that says inclusive of representation and certification shall be submitted. Now, this is not a specific kind of certification. Wherever you see written representation and certification, that means the small business certificate that we got when we registered ourselves on sam.gov. Okay. So you see the website that from where we find the contracts, that's sam.gov. When we registered ourselves there as a small business, we got a certificate. That's called representation and certification. So we already have it. Okay, so it's not a specific requirement. And this representation and certification has to be sent with every contract. Why? Because that is the proof that we are a small business and we're good to go with this contract. Okay, so again, if I scroll up, it has the same details that we already saw. If I scroll down, same details that we have already seen, right? So no certificates required, only representation and certification that we also call reps and certs. Then we have payment terms, invoice, net 30 days. So do you know what payment terms are? Let's search for, first of all, we're going to search for payment. Payment. So what are payment terms? So basically there are multiple things in payment terms. One thing that you need to know that whatever payment terms the government tells you, you are not allowed to share that with the vendor, like the mode of payment, anything else that they shared with you in the documents, you are not allowed to share that with the vendor, okay? So we see that the mention is twice, accept payment, so nothing specific. That's weird. I'm just gonna search for one more thing. So the payment terms, what are they? How and when are you going to get paid? Okay, so we see no payment terms that are added here. Now let me just tell you what payment terms mean here. So basically, when the work is done, you get paid, right? This is basically KSNL getting paid from the client, and then we pay our subcontractor. So whenever government payment terms are mentioned, you do not share that with the vendor. Why? Because we do not want any direct contact of the vendor with the client, because we're kind of like a broker in between. Okay. So payment terms, what are the payment terms in most of the cases? So what things are mentioned in the solicitation document are basically various platforms that they're going to use in order to pay you. And examples are wide workflow, so WAWF, wide area workflow, WAWF, and then there's IPP, and then there's electronic funds transfer. All of these are like clauses that mention that this is the software or this is the online platform that the client is going to use in order to pay you. Okay, and what do I mean by pay you? I mean pay KSNL Consulting. Okay, so we do not share whatever software the client's going to use to pay us with the vendors. What does that mean? If it is mentioned in the document, you would need to edit it out. Okay. Now, that is not the only thing that payment terms mean. Okay. That was the mode of payment. What about how and when are they going to pay us? So that is not quite mentioned always. Very few times it is mentioned. So the client would say that the payment terms are net 30 days. Okay. What does net 30 days means? It means that once you have completed all the work will be inspected by a client assigned representative or inspector. Once they, say that, okay, work is complete and everything's good, then you submit an invoice and then you get paid within next 30 days. So what does that mean? Once you have completed the work, after that 30 days, you will get paid. So that is the most common mode of payment or way of payment for the government. Okay. So what happens that some cases, for example, if it is longer contract, like we discussed, base year and option year kind of contract, in that case, monthly payments are done. So every month you would submit an invoice and you would get paid, that kind of thing. And in other cases, yeah, I know there's a lot of cases, but you need to know all of these so that you understand how is it gonna work. In other cases, what happens is that the client does not mention what do they want. Okay, they don't mention what do they want. So they will just say that please inform us of your payment terms. In that case, what can we do? We can discuss it with the vendor and then inform them. So again, as I said, we do not inform the vendor of the government mode of payment. But what do? We ask the vendor, what are your payment terms? Okay, and that is a very important thing. Always, always, always ask for payment terms. Okay. Why am I saying it? Because many times, the vendor is asking for a deposit. That means as soon as I sign a contract with them or teaming agreement with them, they want me to pay them some amount of the total amount so that they could buy supplies and start the work. Okay. And that is called a deposit. So when ask the vendor as soon as you have a quote from them, what are your payment terms? Many times it is written on the contract or whatever quote they give you. It is mentioned underneath there that this is our payment method. You're gonna pay us in 3 installments. First deposit 50%, second 30%, and one after completing the work 20%. Okay. So you see, they're asking for a 50% deposit first, then they're asking for 30% during the work, and then the remaining they're asking for after the work. So as you already know, that what does government prefer? They prefer net 30 days. All right. In most cases, they do net 30 days. Even if they're asking you, it is most probably possible that they would still go with net 30 days. Okay. So we ask the vendor, what are your payment terms? Okay. We ask them and they tell us that this is our payment term, this is what we're gonna do. So if they're asking for a deposit, like a 50% deposit, we are not gonna do that. There's a reason why. Because we are not getting paid unless the government pays us, right? So what if we give vendor 50% payment and they do not do the work correctly or everything properly and they have to drop the contract, anything, that 50% is not gonna come back because the deposits, they are non-refundable. So that is the problem. We're not gonna take a risk that can cost us. Okay. So what do we do in case the vendor is asking for payment, like a deposit payment? We ask them, okay? We ask them, hey, are you able to lower down the deposit to maybe 10%, 15%, 20%, 30%? So anything lower, but up to 30%. And that is only possible if the total cost quote that they give you, the total estimate is low. If it is like in 100K or something, even that much deposit is not possible. That is too much of a risk. Okay. Our first protocol is we ask them, can you reduce the deposit to maybe 20%, 25% from 50%? Okay. And then see what they do. Other cases, when the vendor asks you, what are your payment terms? You tell them it is net 30 days. You tell them that once work is done and it is inspected, you get paid. Okay. Now there is one more thing, that when you are negotiating the deposit, remember that you have options. That is exactly why we take multiple quotes from different vendors so that we have an option there. What if one company is asking for a 50% deposit, whereas the other company is not asking for anything at all? Or another company is asking for a lower deposit and even their estimate is good. Okay? So everything depends on the total cost. If it is lower, we go with the lower company and then we negotiate everything with them. But we do not skip the negotiation part with other vendors. Okay, so that we can have a backup all the time. I hope you got my point about the payment terms and everything. I'll just repeat it that we do not share the payment terms for the client with the vendors. We just inform them or we ask them what are your payment terms. Okay. We're done with that. We saw that there were no mentions of payment in here. I would need to find another contract in order to show you. Invoice, let's search for invoice once. None. So I showed you one thing, that in the instruction to offers it said that you have to sign the standard form 1449. So it is also called SF18, SF14. Okay. So this page, this first page where you have to check boxes and where you have to sign and everything, this is called standard form. And we have to sign it and send it back for each and every contract because it is on each and every contract like this. Okay. So remember it, that standard form is the first two tables pages of the solicitation document. Then we have evaluation factors, past performance and technical performance. Past performance means, as I explained, that past references of what you have done related to this work. For example, if this is a pest removal contract, pest control contract, you need to make sure that your vendor has past performance. You need to make sure that they do have done previously same kind of work at the same magnitude. Okay, so that means it should be commercial work and not residential work. Okay, let me open up a blank and I'll show you how do we make a past performance. Okay, because sometimes they give you a form to fill out for past performance. At other times they do not do that. And there are a couple things that you need to ask from the vendor so that you could, you know, okay, there we go. So we always need 3 references. Reference 1, and you're just gonna go ahead and copy paste everything. Oh, no, Control V. We only need 2 tabs. Okay, the first thing that you're gonna need is the company name that they worked for. Then you're gonna need the contact name, who they worked for. Then you're gonna need the contact phone number and email. Then you're gonna ask, like, what was the address of the property? Then we have to ask, is it ongoing or is it completed? Okay. And this also mentions like how long did they do that work for? For example, if it is ongoing, since when? Ongoing, since when? If completed, how long was it? Okay. So you're not gonna write this, of course, I'm just sharing this to let you understand. For example, if they say it is ongoing, they will tell you that we've been doing work for this company since 2021 or since 2022. So you can write it down, working since 2022. Okay. And if it's completed, you can write it down that it was completed. No, I do need to add one more tab here. There we go. Okay, that was easy. So dollar value, this is a very important thing. So what is the dollar value? How much did the client pay? Okay. So for example, if they did a previous pest control for a office building in Alabama, they need to let us know how much were they paid. Was it 50K? Was it 10K? What was it? Okay. Why do we need to know? So that we can show that they did do a commercial job, okay? Or bigger job to show the magnitude. Now we have to mention, was it a commercial or was it federal? What's the difference between commercial and federal? Federal is strictly government buildings like US Coast Guard, Naval, Air Force Base, other things, whereas commercial can be universities, colleges, offices, all that. Then the last thing that we need to add is the details. Okay. In the details, they would mention like we were supposed to do pesticide and for this area, and we did it for 2 buildings. Anything that is regarding that contract that gives you an idea of what it was, that's good. Okay. So this is reference 1. We got all of these details. So what happens, you have to make these tables and you have to share it with the vendor. Okay. Because many times I can assure you, most of the times the vendor is not going to do it for you. Okay. So it is better that you make this, remove all of these parts because these have to be empty. And then you copy it for 3 references, like reference 2, reference 1, reference 2, in reference 3. Please provide the following references as an evaluation factor for this contract. Okay. So this is the case when the client is not providing you with a sheet. Okay? They're not providing you with a sheet. That's when you make your own. So that's what was past performance. Okay? If I have to show you here, how do they say we need a past performance? Subfactor 3 past performance. I'll scroll down. Evaluation criteria, technical capability. Subfactor 1, quality control plan. Subfactor 2, pest control work plan. Subfactor 3, past performance. Okay, so all of this is included in the technical capability. Sometimes they would make technical capability one factor and past performance another factor. Okay. In this case, they have told you what do you need to include in your technical capability, and that is past performance, quality control, and pesticide work control. So basically, quality control plan and the pesticide work plan, they're mostly required after you have been awarded the contract. So in this case, you would need to email the government POC and confirm, do you need the QCP and the pest work control plan with the proposal, or do you need it afterwards? Okay. Okay, after that, they've given you the past performance and they're asking you that you have to provide this. Sorry, this is a price part. So we already saw that factor 3 was past performance. Okay. So evaluation vectors, I did not need to search for evaluation vectors. It was right there. So what I would do is I would just search for evaluation, first of all. The foremost thing is evaluation. Okay. Evaluation. So within that part, so let's suppose this shows up. So of course I would need to scroll up. As I said, always scroll up and scroll down. I scroll down and I see, oh, evaluation vectors are given right here. Okay. That is why it is essential to scroll up and scroll down. Now, what if I don't find anything with evaluation? I will just search for technical. Technical proposal shown, technical capability shown. So I know that technical is required. Then I could search for past. It should show up because we saw there was a past performance. But as I said, this document, it is a non-editable document. Okay. So that happens when the contract is made uneditable. You cannot highlight it. You cannot find words in it. I'm using WPS. That's why it is helping with the search. But many times, even the search is not allowed if the document is uneditable. In that case, you just have to go to what were we using? Small PDF. Okay, now in this detail or in this contract, they told you what to add in the technical performance. But what if they did not tell you? What are you going to add to your technical capability? Okay, in that case, what do? We are going to make our own technical capability by adding couple details. And what is that? First of all, we're going to ask them, how long are they working for? Again, the vendor does not do this work for you. Sometimes they would, many times they would not. You would need to ask these details from the vendor and then make these documents yourself and then send it to the vendor and ask, hey, I made this. Can you double check it? So first thing we're going to ask for company experience, how long have you been in the business and all that. You can also get the detail from their website. Company experience done, then we're going to ask how many days do they require to complete the work. Okay? Even if a period of performance is given, like the government is asking you to complete it within 3 months, you still have to ask them how long do they need. Is it less than 3 months? Is it a week? What is it? Okay, that gives a good idea that we know what we're doing. How many days do they require the work? How many crew members are they using? So all of these details, you're gonna make paragraph, you can make headings, anything that works. Company experience, how many days do they require to complete the work? How many crew members? What equipment? You can make a list of equipment they're gonna use. What supplies, any supplies that they're gonna use, you can write their names here. For example, if the pest they're using pesticides, you can write their names, if they're biodegradable or not, all that stuff. What supplies, and then if there is a procedure of work, in that case, they would tell you that first of all, we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna spray, and then we're gonna do a air monitoring, whatever. The work, whatever it is, if there's a procedure, it is better you ask them and then you write it down. Okay? Even if they're giving you like couple words and something, you can always use ChatGPT. First, ask the vendor, then use AI to make it better. And if there are any pictures that you can add, that can be if it's a add bus pictures, if it's a transport contract, if it is a roofing contract, add picture of new shingles or material they're gonna use, if door replacement contract, add pics of doors. Okay, I hope you got my point what I'm trying to say here. So always double check the document that you create with the vendor. Send it to them and ask. Send and ask, is this correct? Or do you want me to change anything? Okay. The doc you create with the vendor, or do you want me to change anything? Okay. So once you have that, so this is what is important. I hope you got the point. Otherwise, if no requirements given by client, these following. Okay, so again, if the technical capability is asked or technical proposal is asked for, you are going to create a document. First, see if they have asked for anything. What if they're saying, we want this in the technical capability, we want, sometimes they ask for like CVs or resumes of the people that the vendor is gonna use to work. Sometimes they can ask for a license, sometimes they can ask for anything, okay? So you would need to make sure that that is added in the proposal. Other times you're gonna use this format. These are the questions you're gonna ask the vendor and then add them here, okay? I hope you got that. Then we are back to deliverables and submittals. So deliverables and submittals are basically documents or things that are required after the award. Okay. So if the certificate of insurance is required after the award, that would be a deliverable. If the quality control plan is required after the award, that would be deliverable. Any document that is required after the award, that is a deliverable. So it says the technical exhibit 5 is the list of deliverable. Let's hope that it is in this document. 3, 4, here it is. Okay, that's good. I had this document for the exact reason. So here you see that there's a list of deliverables. What does this mean? All of these things are going to be required when you are awarded the contracts. What does include? Quality control plan, pest control, all the social security numbers, vehicles, all these trainings, their licenses, their badges, everything. So deliverables are what? They are basically the details or the documents the government or the client is asking for once you've been awarded the contract. Okay? Another word for it is submittals. So we already found them, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do one search for submittal. This is a very good example because sometimes it is given like this. Other times it's either under the instruction to offers or not anywhere. Okay, so I would continue to highlight all of this. All right. For example, I found this, so I highlighted it. And mind you, you have to make a checklist where you put in everything that is required and what's not. Then I know that the last page was list of, no, sorry. Actually, no. So let's see if we can do the deliverable. I'm not sure if this would work, but no. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that you will highlight this as well. Okay. Again, I will scroll up. Nothing important there, and I will scroll down. By not important, I mean nothing to highlight because it's a picture. Not important. Then we have no, the other document. We're done with preference 2. Now let me tell you what do you share with the vendors in this and what you don't share with the vendor. And I'll do that for the preference 1 as well. So of course, if a site visit date is given, you have to tell the vendor, this is the site visit date. You have to go there on this date, this time. And then they go there and they look at everything. Bonds are not for the vendors. These two things, the percentage and the formula, they completely negate that you can do the contract. So does not matter. Insurance, we do share that with the vendor because of course the vendor has to have the insurance as well as our company. Then third tier subcontracting, if it is allowed, if it's not allowed, you always have to tell the vendor that, hey, are you doing the work yourself or is there another company involved? Okay. Then the limitation, so you do tell them this. Instruction to offers, no, we do not share that because that is for us. If there's anything work related required from them, like a certificate, their license, their tax identification number, anything like that, that's when you ask the vendor for the thing. Then for the payment terms, I informed you we do not share that with the vendor. We only ask them what are your performance terms. Evaluation factors and deliverables, these are very important to be shared with the vendor because you saw that past performance and technical are to be created by the vendor. Okay. And to let you know that if we do not submit it, we do not, our proposal does not get accepted at all. Okay. So that is why it is very, very important. Always make a checklist. Always make a checklist. I'll just give you an example of a checklist. So create a checklist. A checklist. Okay. That is going to be basically in your contract folder. And you have to mention limitation on subcontracting, yes or no, whatever it is, you will write that. Insurance, cert required with bid or not. And if the vendor has the insurance or not, then you have to put an evaluation factor, technical and pass required, bond required or not. Third, you're allowed or not. Then magnitude. What else we can add? Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So you have to make this list for your own sake that you would not be able to, forget. We can also add any license or cert required from vendor. Okay, cool. Now we're done with preference 2 for the highlighting. So you see all the important things are highlighted when we do this. The preference 3, that is very simple, start date. So basically, when do they want the work to be started? Most of the times that is not given, but sometimes it is written that you have to start on this day, you have to work on this and all that. Project start. Oh, project start. So I'm not sure. I don't think that is written here because as I said, that is rarely added. And so if it's added, you can tell that vendor that this is the start date. Otherwise, what happens? Vendor is always going to ask you, when do you need the work started? Okay. So if you don't have the start date, what are you going to tell them? You are going to create a suppository date and tell them that. Okay. For example, if today is 27th and I spoke to the vendor today for a contract, for a roofing contract, let's suppose. So they will ask you, when do you need the work done? So I have to keep in mind that the due date for this contract is 7 days away or whatever days away. And then even after that, the client takes like a month or so. So I'll just make it like next month date and tell them, not the date, but a probable date kind of thing. So what I would say is, hey, we do not have an exact date right now, but we're looking to start this contract by the end of July. Okay, so we're at the end of June, and I told them we're gonna need it by the end of July. So that way they can see that they still have their, schedules open, they're not completely booked or anything. So that's why they ask you, when do you need the work done? Do you need it urgent or what is it? Okay, so magnitude you already saw. We did check last session that we look for the magnitude so that we know if we can afford the bonds for this or not. And it is not always added, so that's not a problem. Nothing added. Okay, then we have location. So sometimes there are multiple locations given, so make sure you have that. Statement of work for vendors that we already, so the document that we were discussing yesterday, it had the statement of work within the document, it had the other documents within one document, so that's the thing. If it's added here, I have to take it out, okay? I have to take out the statement of work and make it a different document. Okay? That's when I would have a statement of work for vendor. Write it down. Write one thing down. A very important thing. Very important. Never share the sole doc with the vendor. So this document that I'm looking at, this is a solicitation document and it has the statement of work within it. So I would never share this exact document with the vendor. So what would I do? I would take out the statement of work from it, as well as the pictures, as well as a list of the things that they were asking for, and then share that with the vendor instead of sharing this. Why? We do not tell the vendors about SAM.gov. We do not tell the vendors about any point of contact details, because how or why would we be required if the vendor can directly reach out to them, right? So that is a big no. You always have to remove the addresses for the SAM.gov. You always have to remove the emails that are added here. For example, in the start, as I said, we do not share the solicitation document with them. And I'll just give you an example why. For example, here they're telling you that you have to email it to this person and this is the notice ID. And so as if you remember, I told you that notice ID, we can find the contract with it. So if in your statement of work, anywhere notice ID is written, you're going to remove that as well. You're going to remove any mention of standard form. You're going to remove any emails given that are, for the point of contact. If it is for anything else, like not related to the work, like an emergency email for the emergency services, that's fine. That's completely okay. But if it is for the point of contact, then you have to remove it. So that is why we do not share the solicitation document with the vendor. We share the statement of work with the vendor, and we will discuss that next. As for the price proposal, I told you that we sometimes have a bid sheet. At other times, we do not. These are the tables that are given for the price. You're going to add the prices here. So when it has 0001, 0 in the start, that means base year. Okay. Base year and then the item number 1. If you remember, base year is a year for which you get the contract, and then if they like your work, they can extend it. So there are four things that have to be done under the base year. Okay. Second, in the start, it's 1 and नीचे option लिखा हुआ है. So 1 means it is the option year. So if you get awarded, you are not awarded for the option year. You're only awarded for the base year. But if they like it, if they like your work, then you can get this contract for the option year as well. So 1 means option. And if then digit changes, second option. And if it continues to change, that means third option, fourth option, that kind of thing. Okay. I hope you got that as well. So we're good on that. Tomorrow or in the next session, we are going to do the highlighting without the keywords. Okay, like a complete go through to the document. You have to read the solicitation documents completely. You have to read each and every document completely so that you would understand it. Okay? Otherwise, it would be difficult for you to understand in the start. Okay, I guess that will be all. Thank you so much.